Minnesota, Wild was supposed to be like a team that I considered an emerging emotional addition because they caught fire in second half of the season. But hello, good evening. This is Taiwo Najobi, your host on Landmass Maple Sports. We like to bring you unfiltered opinions, sharp analysis, and some big love for Canadian hoops and ice. And some of our narratives also stresses around creating small space for smart hockey talk. And today I'm going to be diving right into the world of hockey. You all know how the NHL has been going. The National Hockey League is now in the second round. And a lot of the men has already been separated from the boys. So right now we have fewer teams. They are approaching the second round. Once we get to the end of second round, we're going into the conference finals, and a lot has been happening so far. And I'm going to be diving into what I call the three teams that form the power axis that have decided to create some kind of narrative in the second round. And right now, as we're going into the conference final, we're going to now start to see how third round looks like. And you can now have an idea of which team would be able to win it all. We all know Colorado Avalanche has had a very, very wonderful season, and they've won the award for the best regular season team so far. And right now in the playoffs, they've won, 7 of 8, and that's why they've been able to sweep. They've won 8, but they've lost only 1. And that's why they were able to sweep in their first round. And second round, they were able to play 4-1 against a very decent Minnesota Wild team. But before I go into that, I like to say, on my top level takeaway, I like to say 2020 has given birth to a lot of new teams. For the first time in 3 years, we're going to be having 2 different teams in the finals. The last 2 years, we had the same team making the finals back to back, and that was how the Edmonton Oilers were not able to get it done. And now the Florida Panthers, met a very, very tough season, and now they didn't even qualify at all for the postseason, and that's why we don't have some of those top names within the Florida Panthers appearing in this postseason. But that being said, the 3 teams that form that 3 power axis that I'm talking about is the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes have been very, very outstanding. They've played 8 games and they've won all 8 in the postseason. It's looking like some kind of a fairy tale, for you to see a team winning 8 games straight in the postseason. And not just that they won 8 games, they have had more than 1 week to rest, waiting for the team they are going to face in the third round. So it means that a lot of their guys that are banged up have enough time to be able to come back and recover from injuries. And they also have enough time to be able to redirect and restructure for what the next round will look like. Now, because that's also happening within the basketball world, it's also very tricky. And this is what can go wrong. If a team is not careful and disciplined enough, if they rest enough to be able to wait for their next opponent, they may now become a bit more relaxed and believe that it's going to be easy. As you go up, it becomes much more difficult. Going into the third round means that they automatically qualify for a conference final. And the conference final, they will most likely be going to go and meet a Canadiens team, the Montreal Canadiens, and that will be a very, very tough matchup for them. Both teams are structured the same way because they have very young talents and they have a very, very good coach. And I feel it's going to be a tough one. Looking at the three team axis, we have Colorado Avalanche, who are playing so well at a very high level. They swept in the first round. They had a 4-0. And in the second round, they just suffered just 1 defeat against a very decent Minnesota Wild team. But they just made very easy of the team and, they just moved on. But their first round was a bit different because they dominated the LA Kings completely. And, they made it very easy. But second round, there was a small setback. They met a more physical team, but they were still able to get it done. And it shows that they have what it takes. They are built for the finals, not even the postseason. They are actually built for the finals. The Vegas Knights, which is the Vegas Golden Knights, are, getting very close to wrapping up the second round because they just need 1 more win. And I was just watching the match. I think they still have the third period to go, but they will most likely get it done. They just have 1 more win to be able to defeat the Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks have played so well in this series. And, for them not to go through a sweep, but they were able to push it to a game 6, shows that the Anaheim Ducks is a very good team. They've also improved. But the Vegas Knights are more experienced. Remember that they also gave the Oilers a lot of problem. last season as well, but they're still a very, very good team. So they form the second part of my three-team power axis. On the other side, we also have Montreal on the Eastern Conference, who would most likely defeat the Buffalo Sabres and go directly into the conference final to face the Carolina Hurricanes. They are playing so well. They won earlier today, defeating the Buffalo Sabres, in a very, very decent win with Caulfield scoring one of the good goals, Suzuki playing at a very high level. Neil Hook, who is their main guy, he was practically one of the best players. Neil Hook and Dobbs, who is their goaltender, are practically like the best players this entire series they just completed. And I'm really happy to see the team really emerging. So that being said, Minnesota, Wild was supposed to be like a team that I considered an emerging emotional addition because they caught fire in second half of the season, but unfortunately, the matchup was not favoring them. They met a Colorado team that is playing at a very high level, and Colorado has been able to make it easy for them. So, hopefully, better luck next time. So I've done a structured analysis that helps me look at what kind of, powerhouses are moving into the third round, because the third round is a conference final. Whichever team wins this round automatically shows up in the final itself. And we're going to be seeing, some different kind of energy going on. Now, the true contenders right now at this stage of the season are very few. And Carolina Hurricanes is my number one. That's the machine. They've not lost a single game in this postseason. They swept the Ottawa Senators 4-0. They also swept the Philadelphia Flyers 4-0. They won all these games convincingly. If you look at their form metrics and narratives, they are playing like they are suffocating the team. They are very, very fast, and their system is very, very effective. Very good coach. Taylor Hall, doing about 12 points in 8 games, his first 8 games. Frederick Anderson in the first 8 games did about 1.12 on GAA, 0.950 on SV percentage. That's the best so far that we have in playoffs. And that's because they are not even losing any match yet. So Carolina is playing for me more like a position-driven team. Very, very fast, and they want to keep the ball all the time. So on my list, if you look at it, I would like to say for the Carolina Hurricanes, they are a cup favorite, and I see them getting to the final against the Colorado Avalanche. The only fear is Colorado Avalanche is working harder to beat the teams that they are facing in first and second round. And that's why they don't have the perfect result that the Hurricanes have. They are working harder to beat teams because Minnesota stressed them a bit. Some of their players were a bit banged up. But the Hurricanes have enough time to rest. And that's the only difference. So Hurricanes are coming in fresh if they, end up with the same performance in the conference final against the Montreal Canadiens. After the first 7 matches, Minnesota was able to just win just one game against Colorado. McKinnon had about 6 goals and 6 assists in the first 8 games. And their offense did about 9 goals in game 1 alone. So 5 in game 2. So they are producing a lot of goals. It's a very good team. They are very talented, producing a lot of goals, but they are also conceding. And that's the difference between them. They've conceded more goals than the Carolina Hurricanes. Based on percentage, they are too far apart. So that's the only part I'm a bit worried about. I like the Colorado Avalanche because of their high-octane offense. They are very, very fast. They are producing more goals. And their goaltending was shaking a bit because they had to pull Wedgwood in game 3 against the Minnesota Wild. So McKinnon is also playing at a very high level. He's a very, very smart Canadian guy. He played well also in the Olympics, but he was injured in game 4. He broke his nose a bit and, a lot of blood was coming out. But hopefully he's able to stabilize, get better and, get into the conference final with a lot of energy. They'll be facing most likely the Vegas Golden Knights, who is a very, very experienced team again. So I feel that their high scoring, definitely they'll defeat the Vegas Knights, but only if maybe injuries come up. Mackay is coming back. I thought he was going to miss one of the games of this series, but he's coming back and he's doing so well. Kadri that they bought from Calgary Flames is also playing at a very high level. And I feel that they would be able to get it done against the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights are the veteran Hydra. They've been in this position almost, so much more times. They've also won the Stanley Cup at least within the last 7 years. They've won it once as well. They were able to play the first 4 games against the Anaheim Ducks just to tie it at 2-2. Then they went ahead 3-2, and right now they are trying to round up game 6, and they are already leading convincingly. So they will most likely make it very easy to get rid of the Anaheim Ducks. After 6 games, HL had scored 18 points. After 10 games, HL had scored 18 points, and it shows that he's playing at a very high level for the Vegas Kings. Carter Hart was doing about 0.908 on SV percentage. That's very good, but not so elite. It means that they are conceding goals, but they are finding a way to win. Because if you look at these Anaheim Ducks, it's still very close. They will most likely be ending the series 4-2 in 6 games. So it shows that they still have some vulnerabilities compared to the other teams that are within this category. So Vegas Knights are, for me, the most experienced team left. Their defensive structure has a bit of leak, but they are still dangerous, and they sometimes can be invisible and sometimes they may not be invisible, but they can still, cause a lot of problem for people. The second level, I call them the disruptors, and that's where we have the Montreal Canadiens. They are the chaos engine. A very young team, wonderful team. Their first 4 games, they split it 2-2 with the Buffalo Sabres, and they beat Tampa Bay, just like I've talked about in my last session, in 7 games. So it shows that as a young team, they are scoring goals, but they are also conceding. Dobbs tried his best, and so far he has done about 2.13 on GAA and 0.918 on SV percentage before they played their 5th game. And because right now they are up in the series 3-2, so they have one more game to be able to try and wrap this up to be able to end everything in game 6. If not, if they lose their next game, they're going to go to a game 7. So I'm really hoping that their young core, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, and Hudson continue to produce enough to be able to get them over the hump. Their genetic identity for me is more like they are very fast, they are fearless, a very, very, very good coach, and they thrive in high emotion, especially when they're in front of their fans. They play very, very well in Montreal. They play extremely well in Montreal. But the good thing is they've also won a lot of games away from home. In the Tampa Bay series, it showed that they could win away from home because of the way they defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning all the way in Florida, where they don't have their own fans. So it shows that they are a very good team, disciplined young guys, but they understand what is ahead of them. So for me, my verdict is they can upset any team. Even the Carolina, they may be able to upset them, but they need to be able to win game 1. If they win game 1, then it means that Carolina is in trouble, because Carolina has not lost a single game in this postseason. But if they lose game 1 to a Montreal team, then Carolina is out. They can't get to a final at all. So Minnesota Wild is out. I feel for them. Matchups just favor them. Boldy had a good one. I think within their first 7 games, he had 7 goals and 4 assists. Kaprizov had 14 points. Their defensive scoring, 8 goals from defensemen, was a franchise record for me. Wallstead was also stabilizing in the net, but they just made a very, very good team, and, the momentum just shifted, and right now, the better luck next time. I still feel the Colorado Avalanche have some goaltending issues, and these are some of the things they need to improve on. Wedgwood is struggling, and that's why they've pulled him on certain occasions. Vegas' Hart is a bit inconsistent. So these are 2 weaknesses of 2 teams that will most likely meet in the 3rd round, and that's where we have conference finals happening. Buffalo too is almost on their way out. They have one more game to be able to try and maybe just shift it to a game 7. You understand? And their, goaltender is doing about 0.821 on SV percentage. So these teams are vulnerable in the long series, and they have some weaknesses that I've seen so far. But once they can find their way to iron things out, they should be able to go far. Teams that are rising, or players or young players that are rising so far in this competition that I've seen, and we didn't really see that last year. Slavkovsky has really improved for the Montreal. Boldy played well for the Wild. Kaprizov played well for the Wild. Newhook is still playing well for Montreal. And Lacombe is playing well for the Ducks as well. He's really playing at a very high level. He's one of their best forecheck players right now. So I like to just look at the psychological and narrative angles. For my own kind of Lamina's specialty, I would say Carolina is playing like a team that knows that the window is now. Next year, I don't see Carolina getting to this level. Carolina Hurricanes, they are taking advantage of the moment, and they are playing very, very hard. They are a bit more desperate. There's no drama for them, no hesitation. They are just executing in a pure way. The maturity is different. Dorado McKinnon is playing well. McKinnon is the best player on that team, and he had a good regular season, and that's why it was looking like he was even struggling based on best player in the world status that we were giving McDavid. We were beginning to compare McDavid with McKinnon this season because he was playing Jordan mode, He was becoming like a bit invisible on that team. But the team is volatile. They're also conceding goals because they're having a bit of struggle in goaltending. And that's exactly one of the problems the Oilers had this season. Goaltending was not fixed. If goaltending was not a problem this season, maybe the Oilers would have gone far. But the team is very volatile, and one bad goaltending night can derail them completely. and they won't be able to go far this season. Vegas is they have this veteran swagger. They've been in this situation a lot of times, and they were the team I wanted the Oilers to meet in the first round, because if the Oilers had beaten these Vegas Knights in the first round, then they would have been able to get to the final. But I didn't even know the Anaheim Ducks were going to step up the way they did. And now the Vegas are already defeating them. But the Ducks' speed really gave the Vegas team a bit of a stretch, and they had to rethink some of their strategy and try to come out in a different way. Montreal, they are young, hungry, they have nothing to lose. They are very good, which even though they've been bounced a couple of times within the last few years, and, at least within the last 8 years, a good number of those years, they didn't even qualify for the postseason. So they play with a lot of joy now, and that's very, very dangerous, because they don't play like they're under pressure. Minnesota is out, but the loyalty is with them. Hopefully, better luck next time. So the odds, I put together some cup ordered odds, especially for people that want to pick up odds for betting reasons. Hurricanes are plus 155. The Avalanche are plus 185. Golden Knights are plus 550. Canadians are 13 minus 1. And we also have the Sabres at 13 minus 1. And if you look at the interpretation very well, clearly the Vegas believe that the cup is either Carolina versus Colorado Avalanche. That's the collision course I'm looking at. They will most likely meet in the final, because these are the two teams that have almost perfect record so far in the first two series. I'm just afraid of goaltending for the Colorado Avalanche and a bit of emotional high tempo. They are scoring a lot of goals, but they're also conceding a lot. But the Hurricanes are not losing any match. They are conceding some goals, yes, but they're not losing any match within their last 8. And this is very tough in the postseason, because though they met a very weak other team and it was very easy to beat them, then they met a very lucky Philadelphia Flyers. We didn't know the Philadelphia Flyers would go this far in the season, but we don't want to say that, because for a team to have gotten to postseason means that you are doing something right. So those are the things I need to track next in my next update on the NHL. By then, they would have finished the second round and they'll be moving to third round, which is conference finals. Goaltending stability is something I'm looking for. I want to see the swing factor amongst the teams that are left. The momentum shift that happens in game 4s is historical for hockey. What happens in game 4 is always very, very important. And those are things I'm going to be looking out for game 4, especially the fact that I don't believe that there will be any sweep in the conference final. I'm looking at culture and talent dynamics as well. Minnesota, they had some culture too that also had a way of helping them frustrate the Colorado team a bit. But Colorado team was able to get it done in 5. But a lot of their key guys were also injured. They were banged up in defeating Minnesota. I'm looking at upset probability modeling. Montreal will be able to, if they put everything right and win game 1, they should be able to upset the Hurricanes. And I see both teams meeting in the final. Okay, so that's a breakdown of what has been happening so far in the world of hockey. Remember, now the men has been separated from the boys. So we have fewer teams. We have just 4 teams that are going into the conference final. And it looks like 3 of the teams are already clear. We're just waiting for the Montreal's game 6 for them to be able to, take care of the Buffalo Sabres and go and join the Hurricanes in the final. But it looks like Colorado will most likely be facing the Vegas Kings in the final, and in the conference final, so we can know which team will be getting to the Stanley Cup this year. Hopefully, maybe Colorado can break the long-lasting course of the best team in the regular season does not even get to the final or win the Stanley Cup. Maybe Colorado can change that narrative this time around. Thank you very much for staying till the end. Like we always do, this is Taiwo Onajobi once again on Lanunasis Maple Sports. Thank you for joining us, and we'll reach out to you next week. God bless.